Welcome back to Good Morning Maine. We're here with Sam Feifel. He's the editor of Beer and Weed magazine. Sam, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me here. I really appreciate it.
Of
Well,
course.
we've had all kinds of authors on here before. I've never thought we would have something like this, but it's kind of a sign of our times.
Yeah.
It is, absolutely. Well, I've been, making newspapers and magazines in Maine for a long time. I was down at the Portland Phoenix for a long time, and some of us industry veterans, we just noticed that there really wasn't a serious publication addressing the cannabis marketplace, and it's a big industry. People, hundreds of millions of dollars are being spent. It's bigger than potatoes, almost as big as lobster. We thought it deserved, a high quality magazine, and brought you guys a copy here, right here. This is our actually October issue. The one that's most on the street right now is our December gift guide.
Cool.
But we named it Beer and Weed for a reason, right? When you say, hey, I'm going to go out for beers after work with my friends, nobody blinks an eye, right?
Yep.
The law that regulated cannabis in Maine is literally called, an act to regulate marijuana at the time, the same way as alcohol, right? And so it's the same legality. And so what we're trying to do is teach people, how to consume cannabis, and we call it cannabis on purpose because marijuana is a loaded term, with the drug
stigma to it still.
They literally, called it marijuana on purpose to add this it's Mexican back in the 1900s. Cannabis is, more appropriate name, and people go out for work and have a pre-roll, or people go out for work and, eat some edibles and go hiking. It's a totally normal thing to do. And so, this is a lifestyle publication for people who are interested in, I like craft beer, I like craft cannabis. What's going on? What can I do with those things?
And there's a lot of breweries and there's a lot of dispensaries.
There are.
So, can you talk about what you wanted to come on and talk about, right, was how to obtain legal cannabis is what we want to use the term.
Well, I think there's a lot of people who, they might be Gen X like I am, they might be baby boomers, right? They grew up in a time where cannabis was illegal, right? It's bad, that's drugs, right? Well, now it's legal. I might be a little bit hesitant to walk into one of these places. What do I buy? What am I supposed to do? Do I get a doobie? They don't know what these things are, right?
Yeah.
And what's great is, just like your bartender at your local bar, right, who's going to help you, hey, I want a whiskey sour, they're going to make it for you. You don't have to make it yourself, right? They have bud tenders, right? And you walk into a recreational cannabis shop, and there is a person designed to help you shop for cannabis. He's your bud tender. She's your bud tender. It's often women, actually. And, you can go in there and you should be free to ask questions, right? They're not going to look down at you because you don't know what you're talking about. They're going to ask you what you want to experience, right? Do you want something that's going to help you relax at the end of the day? Do you want something that's going to make your basketball game more fun to play? You tell them the experience you're looking for, and then they're going to let you know, what their recommendations are. Hey, it might be, eat this, and this is going to, take effect in about half an hour, and you're going to enjoy it for about 3 or 4 hours. Or, hey, take one of these pre-rolls, smoke with your friends. It's an instantaneous effect. It's probably going to be over in about an hour, and then you can go about the rest of your day. So, I just encourage people to, walk into these places with a sense of curiosity because, a lot of people have fun with it. It might not be for you. Try it out. You don't like cannabis, that's fine. But, if you're interested, there's no shame that needs to be attached to it anymore, right? It's perfectly legal. It's just like having a beer. Go try it out.
So, when it comes to these dispensaries, it seems like to me, the communities, it seems like we have a new couple of dispensaries every year. Do you think there are drawbacks to the community to having so many dispensaries in the community?
Well, I think, it's any marketplace can get crowded, right? So I encourage people to think of dispensaries much more like coffee shops, right? So, no one ever complains like, oh, there's too many Dunkin' Donuts. Oh, there's too many Starbucks, right?
Yep.
It's a place where you go to get your daily caffeine fix, right? And, just like you might, I really love one of those Dunkin' Donuts iced coffees in the morning, but, I need a caffeine fix. I'm going to go to Starbucks and I'm going to get one. No big deal, right? Dispensaries are much the same way. You might have your favorite that you go to that has a strain that you really enjoy or an edible that you think is really tasty. But, hey, we got a bachelorette party coming up here. I'm going to stop on my way home and grab some supplies. You're not going to be too picky.
Probably moderation, just like everything, whether it's food, alcohol, or whatever, is key. Because it can become a problem for some people. I've seen it before.
Of course it can. Yeah, just like gambling, right? We got the casino downtown here in Bangor. Yeah. Just like alcohol, we have Alcoholics Anonymous. of course, people can abuse cannabis, right?
Yeah.
But, I ask people to think about it. How long has cannabis been fully recreational legal, right? It's been more than 2 years now. Have you guys been on the morning news? Lots of stories about all the cannabis problems we're having in the state. Tons of car crashes.
I haven't heard a lot. I personally, I think I'm still waiting to hear if there's any problems. Every now and then you hear things popping up.
Things aren't as explicit. When you hear about somebody driving under the influence, it's driving under the influence.
Yeah. Sure.
And it seems like this is something, it may be different than weed, than people think they could go drive if they're stoned. And that's different.
Right.
So,
I'm not encouring anybody to go drive stoned. That's a bad plan.
Right. But no, we don't hear that explicitly is what I'd say. Good question.
It hasn't really led to any big problems that didn't already exist, right? There were already people abusing cannabis, but it wasn't really hard to get in Maine, right? And we've also had medical cannabis now for more than a decade, right? And so that's allowed people to kind of ease into it, right? The people who really do use cannabis for a medical purpose, they've had a long tradition now of going to a person that they trust and getting what for them really is medicine, right? Yeah. The recreational market's a lot different. But I would encourage people, to think of it, when you go play basketball, I mentioned earlier, right? Do you say, oh, I'm going out to play some recreational basketball, right? No, but it's also good for you, right? Yeah. You enjoy it, it's healthy, get some exercise, right? Cannabis is kind of the same way, right? Yeah. Like you might think of it as recreational, but it also might help you sleep, or it also might help you study a little bit. Some people like it to work. So
we're getting the hard rap here because we're about out of time. I think the bottom line, it's part of a growing industry here now. It is here, and the stigma is changing. People's opinions about it are changing.
Yeah, thank you for coming to us for this,
this
conversation.
It. And you guys are lucky in Bangor. You got a great selection of dispensaries, and you can get whatever you want.
Absolutely.
We're still learning. I think we are all still learning about this.
Absolutely.
So we appreciate you coming.
There's a lot to learn. Thank you, Sam.
Well, people can find out more at beerandweedmagazine.com.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Thank you.
Now your forecast.